Okay, good morning everybody. We're going to start from Daf Kuf Nun Beis Amud Aleph, the top of the Amud. And Mi'at Hashem, we're going to try to get all the way till Daf Kuf Nun Ches Amud Beis. Let's jump right into it. The first line, Itmar, Matnas, Shchivmara, Shekasuba, Kinyan. You have a Matana, the Rishbam is saying that we're talking about where a person wrote, all is Nechasav. In such a scenario, what is the halacha where he added a Kinyan? Now, if he would have stayed quiet and not mentioned a Kinyan, we all know, we learned this in the Mishnah, it's considered a regular matnas, shchivara, that has the advantage that you do not need to do a kinyan. However, he added over here a kinyan. So Beirav Mishmei the Rav Amri, they want to say Arkave Atrei Richshi, which means to say is that they're riding on two horses. They have two advantages going on over here. Now there's Ram Zosem Meisif. Lav Dafke was Mamash a kinyan. Dr. Ram, who would if it didn't say a kinyan? However, Urcha the Milsa Nakat, that is the derech to put in a kinyan. So, and that Rav wants to say he's riding on two horses. Now he has two separate kaiches, and we're going to be masber in a moment. However, Shmuel Amar Lo Yadana Mayadam Bey. I don't know what to do with such a halacha, such a case. Bei Rav, the Gemara is masber. Bei Rav Mishmei the Rav Amri. Arkaveh Trei Richshi. Why is it that you have two kaiches? It's as follows: Harei Kematnas Bari and Harei Kematnas Shchimra. You get both advantages. Harei Kematnas Bari, just like a Bari that what? Shem Amadei Chayzer. Since there's a kinyan, we say he doesn't have the schus to be chayzer. However, Arei Kamatna Shchimera She'im Amar Havasa L'Ploini. The halacha is it works as Havasa L'Ploini. Again, in a case, even though there's Ban's Masber, even though there is no Maimed Shloshton, usually you need to have three people to do it. However, Shchimera is going to work without a Maimed Shloshton. So that's the chiddush, that you have a Maila of a Shchimera. However, by adding a kinyan, you're taking away the schos that if you recover, you can get back in a chasim. That is Shitas Rav. However, V'Shmuel Amar Lo Yadana Mayadam Bey. I don't know what to do. Why? What's the shaila? Zok Shmuel Shema Lo Gomar Lahaknoisei Elo B'Shtar. Why did this person go? He could have stayed quiet, and a regular matnas shchimra by staying quiet it would have worked. So why did he go and add a kinyan? Elamah, he wanted to go and knock away the schos of shchimra and to make it instead like a bari. And we all know with a bari can be chayzer. Now there's a kinyan. So maybe Zok Shmuel Shema, maybe that was his das, and we all know ve'ein shtar la'achar misa. Now that the person's dead, that's when he wants it to kick in. It's ready too late. Since it's ready misa, there's nothing to take place. Therefore, Shmuel says, in such a scenario, it's not going to work. Frak the Gemara ve'rami derav derav v'deshmuel of the Shmuel. Over here, we're going to have a steer. We're going to show us a place where it's mamish punk fakert of what we're saying in Shitas Rav Shmuel. Why? The shalach ravin mishmei deravo. Havi yadi. You should know sheshalach Rabbi Lazar legoyla. Mishum Rabbeinu. Who's Rabbeinu? The Rabbeinu Gershom says Zeh Rav. That he says as follows: Shchivmer Hasha'amar. You have a shchivmer that's dying, and he says Kos. Go right into a tzava. Vitnu manen. Write it in the star that you want to give this person a manen leploini. And what happened was, next thing you know, he died already with mace. The halacha is ain't kaisrin v'noisnin. You don't give it to the mekabel, the person who's getting the matana. Why not? Shema loy gamer laknoisay el b'shtar, which we just saw moments ago. That was Shita Shmuel. However, here we're saying this in Rav. Ve'ein shtar lachar misa. However, v'amar Rav Yehuda Shmuel, which is what we saw earlier over here. Shmuel says hilchas hakaisin. You do write it. Hilchas hakaisin v'noisnin. So frak the Mar, it's a kasha the Rav, and kasha the Shmuel. We see exactly the opposite of Shitas. In the first case where we started the daf, which was a matna shchimera that has a kinyan, Rav says it works. We give him the schos, and Shmuel says ein shtar lachamisa. However, in a scenario where you give a person to write the tzava and you tell him to write in the shtar that you're going to give, and in such a case, we see the opposite Shitas. And that the Gemara answers the Rav loy kasha. Ha de kani minei, ha de loy kani minei. Dainu, in the first brisa we're learning what you did was you did a kinyan. And what type of kinyan? You did a kinyan sudr. Now in such a case where Yutaka did a kinyan, there he wants to say that it's coming to show us a maila of what? Of a bari mashenkin over here. He didn't do it in the shtar maisa kinyan, right? There was no kinyan, rather he wrote in the shtar. So in such a case, behad the kanimine, which more than it's a kinyan sudr. So then we can understand, like we all know kinyan sudr, if anything, what a kinyan sudr does is, it shows you that you're very committed. We find when you go to the Rav and sell him chametz, you do a kinyan sudr, you do like you pick up your yarmulke. Why? Because you're trying to show that you're serious and concrete. So therefore it makes sense, Zok Rav. In a scenario where you did a kinyan sudr, you're showing they wanted to be matnas bari. Mashenkin over here, in the second case, what did you do? You put in an eitzah to write it in the shtar like a kinyan, and that Rav says, wait a second. Why is he putting it in the shtar? Elamai, maybe he doesn't want to have the schus of a matnas shchivmera, which what we understood for Shita Shmuel earlier, therefore it's not going to work. So that is Shita's Rav. The first case was a kinyan soda, which is normal. It's not taking away the koyach of a matnas shchivmera. And the second case is where you did a kinyan by putting it in the shtar, and there was no reason to do that. Elamai, the whole purpose was, which is a tzad, is to say that a person does not want to have the schos of a matnas shchivmera. That is Shitas Rav. Shmuel is going to say Shmuel like Kasha, that the second case where Shmuel holds the work is b'miyapes koichai, which we're going to see in Amud Beis, a specific lashon you put in the shtar, which we clearly understand that you're not taking away the koyach of a matnas shchivmera, rather you're being meisif. I'm going to see that's the lashon that you're doing. In such a case, Shmuel says, Avada, I agree, in such a case, that you give it over and you don't say ein shtar la'achar misa. Zok the Gemara weiter, Yosef Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Achayre de Rava. Rav Nachman Yitzchak is sitting behind Rava. The Yosef Rava came to Rav Nachman. And Kabbai Minei is sitting in front of Rav Nachman, he has a shaila as follows. Mi Amar Shmuel, Shema loy gamar laknoisa el b'shtar. Did Shmuel really say this halacha? That maybe Shema loy gamar laknoisa el b'shtar ve'in shtar lachem. He said, did he really say this? How could that be? V'hamar Rav Yehuda Shmuel, and Rav Yehuda brings from Shmuel that what Chivmera shekasav kol nechasav la'acher. It's Chivmera that writes all his nechasim, and here we should underline it. Afapi shekonu miyadit. This is where it's going to be sticky. Even though he made a kinyan, the halach is amad. He could be chayzer. Why? B'yadua, we know that the whole kinyan was what? Sheloi haya kinyan el machmas misa. The whole concept why he did the kinyan was machmas misa, and over there we don't say Shema like gamar like nice little shtar lachem misa. So the chayra, what is Shmuel saying? Where we started the daf with, in the case of Shmuel, where it says a shchimera that wrote a kinyan. Over there, Shmuel says Shema like gamar like nice misa. Here we clearly see. Otherwise, we're on Kufnon Beis Amud Beis, the top of the Amud. And what happened was v'achvi lebiyada, which means to say is the two mahalchim. One is he's saying that it's not. He went like this, that it's not such a kasha. What you asking me? Or he picked up his hands, Dr. Shvam, the other way. He picked it up showing up that this case was of miyapes kaichai. In such a case, we just learned earlier that Shmuel agrees. In such a case, that avada, you don't say Shema le gomer la knoisai ela b'shtavein shtar lachem misa. The ishtik, and Rava was quiet. Lamaisa kikam, and he got up and he asked him, Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak Rava, my achvilach, what was he doing when he was showing you his hands? Both mahalchim and the Rishbam. What was he telling you? What he was trying to say is, he's trying to say this is a scenario of miyapes koicha, and that Shmuel agrees that it works. So frakting mara hechi dami miyapes koicha. What's the case that we clearly understand that it's considered miyapes koicha? Yamar of Chizda, where a person writes in the shtar that what do the Eidim say? V'kaninim and we did a kinyan. However, maisif, which is underlined, you should be where all we're doing is maisif amaltanta da, which is the matna shchimra, which is in matna tonabal peh. And that, all we did a kinyan was for one purpose, rather was just to be Maisif. And the Rashban says, Lishni Yiseiras, what? For one reason. Liyapis es koyach. He's not taking away the schusim of a matna hashchimra. Zoktig Mar Weiter, Pshita, Kosav Lezeh, Kosav Lezeh. A person, Sunday morning, we're talking about a shchimra, and he writes all his nechasiv to Reuven. Monday morning, he changes his mind, he gives it to Shimon. On such a case, it's pashut that it works. Hainu, why? The chiyasa. Rav Dimi, when Rav Dimi came to Bavel, Amar Daikiti Mivatelis. Daikiti, we already saw in Kuflam and Hayam Beis. The Gemara says, why is it called a Daikiti? Da Tehel Mekam, that here it could work. Even though there's no kinyan, that's what we call a matna shchimra, a daikiti. So in such a case, we already learned that it's pashut. A daikiti is mevateles daikiti. That's not a question of the Gemara. However, kasav v'zicha lezeh, kasav v'zicha lezeh. Dr. Ishban, what happened was you wrote all your nechasim, and your maisar loyas a shtar, and you gave him over the shtar for a raya. Now, when you write lerayas chusay, it wasn't for a kinyan, because otherwise we're going to see in a moment we wouldn't have a kasha, we wouldn't have a machlekes Rav Shmuel. But it's an area where you maisar him the shtar. In such a case, could it be chayzer or not? Who's Scheiner? So on Sunday you gave it to Reuven, you wrote him a matna shchimra, and you gave him the shtar. And then Monday you did the exact same thing. In such a case, who gets it when a person dies? Rav Amar Rishon Kana. Rav wants to say, Lamaisa, since you gave it to him, was like doing a regular kinyan, and akaveh trei richshi, like we saw in Amud Aleph, and therefore the first person gets it. Shmuel Amar, Shmuel is going to tell us, no, Sheini is kanal just like a regular halacha of a matna shchimra, that the halacha is Amar Chayz, and he is able to go back. Shmuel Amar Sheini kanal, because I rehi can matna shchimra. Fraktig Mara, why do we need this? We already had such a machlekes. We mamish had this case, a scenario. Mamish the exact same type of case earlier. Now, what's the chiluk? We're matnash chimra that had a kinyan, which is what we started the daf with. We had a machlekes Rav Shmuel. So why over here is there any purpose in telling us the exact same machlekes? Mar answers: you needed the case of Nomad Aleph, and you need the case of Nomad Beis. Tzricha, you needed both cases. I'll tell you Rav Mishum the Konami. If you're going to tell me the first case that we understand, you needed to Rav, and Rav in the first case we know he did a kinyan. Over here it wasn't black and white, he did a kinyan. The Amad Aleph was a matnash chimra shekasa b'kinyan, so there's no shaila about it. Mashenkin over here, it was only kasa vizikal as esamela. You needed to tell us. Memela b'hakam erava b'ha. In our case, the like kanimine ema. You would say maybe maydil shmuel kamashmal not. V'yitman b'ha. So say our case, only the second case where there's no kinyan and sakol shekain from Amad Aleph, and then the Gemara says no. There you have a problem with Shmuel. You say dafka in our case b'hakam Shmuel that it doesn't work because there is no kinyan. In the first case is a kinyan, he'll be maybe maydeh to Rav. Ava bahach in the first case, maybe maydeh to Rav. Mela tzricha, you have both cases to tell us otherwise. Zakting mara b'pasura masni hachi. That's how we learned. This is a gersa that we had in Surah. However, pavandisa masni hachi. They learn in pavandisa as follows. Amar Rav Yirmiyah barabel. Shalchu leimi bei Rav l'Shmuel. Yelamdeinu Rabbeinu. Teach us, please. Sheshchimera. Shekasav kol nechasav lacher. It's mamish like when we started the daf, but here it's a different gersa. V'ekonomi yadimau. What is the halacha? So shalach lehu, they sent back ein acher kinyan klum. There's no such a thing. Once you did a kinyan, it's already too late. There's nothing to do about it. Ein acher kinyan klum, and therefore he's trying to say is you cannot be chayzer. So savim milei. So on kuf nun gimel amad aleph, the top of the amad. Savim milei hani milei acher. When is Shmuel going to say ein acher kinyan klum? That's dafka for somebody else in the case of Reuven and Shimon. Aval atzmai, when he himself to be chayzer, that Avada would say like. On that we said, Amar Chesla Kiyas Rav Huna Mekufri clearly said that Persha explicitly Shmuel says the halacha is bein la'atzmai, bein la'acheirim. The halacha is you cannot be chayzer. Zok the Heilige Gemara, Ahu dekonomine. There was a person that did a king in such a case. Also, Kamei Rav Huna Amar, and again we're masber. There's Ramas masber in this case of Kasav. Vizika v'konomine. Now he wants to be chayzer, so there he did doubles. He mamish wrote the shtar, gave him the shtar when he was mezaka, and he did an extra kinyan. So what is the halach in such a case? He wants to be chayzer. Also, Rav Huna says, "What can I do? I'm a mayavelach. I can't do anything. The loy aknus kedemaknu inchi. I know regular matnash chimera. In such a case, you could have just stayed quiet, gave a regular matnash chimera, gave it to him balpeh. And in such a case, you could have been chayzer, there's no issue. But what did you do? You decided to be ayyubichacha. You went and gave a balpeh. And you wrote it in the shtar, and you gave the shtar zaraya, and then you went and did what? You did a kinyan. In such a case, look, we just learned earlier in Shmuel says, even bein la'atzma, in a case where you did a kinyan, you did both, and you were mezakeh to him, in such a case, Shmuel agrees, ein shtar la'chamisa, there's not going to help, and there's nothing to be chayzer. In such a case, there's not going back. So again, it comes out in Shmuel, we really have three different cases. One is, the first case we started the daf with Matana, Shekasa B'Kinyan. What does Shmuel say? Any day, I don't know what to do. Why not? Because Shema Lagama La'Knoisel B'Shtar, Ve'in Shtar La'Chamisa. Then we had on the top of Kufnon Beis, clearly Shmuel's Maida in a scenario of Miyapes Koyach, where the person, the Eidim say, we did a Kinyan and we're Maisif Amatanta Da. Shmuel agrees in such a case it works. And then we have the third case where you wrote a tzavah, of a tzavah, and you gave it to him and you made a kinyan. There Shmuel says, since in this case you did two zachin, you wrote it and made a kinyan, there's nothing I can do, and the halacha is you cannot be chayzer. Zok the Gemara, we're going to have a new shayla. Hu matanto, you have a matnash chimra, the have a koseba bechayim u b'mavis. So it's a little confusing. You wrote in the shtar that you give it to him when you're alive and when you're dead. What's going on? Is it what do we focus on? That's going to be the shayla in the Gemara. We're going to see it's a machlekes. Which one do we say is the ikr? Because it doesn't really make sense to say life and death. Do we say the ikr is you're really giving to him today when he's live? We're going to see why you mentioned mavis. Or the other way around. The ikr is mavis, and we're going to see why you mentioned chayim. But we could only pick one of them to say is the ikr. So which one? So in such a shayla, what do we do? So Rav Amar Harei Kematnas Chimera. Rav's going to say you consider Chimera. V'Shmuel Amar Harei Kematnas Bari. The Gemara explains. Rav Amar Harei Kematnas Chimera Medekasa B'Maves. Since you wrote B'Maves, what are you trying to do? To tell us Acher Misa Kamerle. So why in the world did you write Chaim in your star? What were you thinking? You know why you wrote Chaim? Simen Ba'almo Dechai. A lot of times what you're trying to do is you don't want to open your pets. You don't want to do that. Rather you're saying should give me refuah shlema that the matnas chimera should never take place. That's why you wrote B'chaim, but you didn't mean to be chayzer in anything. That was the concept writing B'chaim, but Abadi wanted to give it like a regular mavis. Vishmuel says, Adarab, Amai Rei Kematnes Bari Midiksibba B'chaim. Why did you write B'chaim? Elamai, you want to give it today. The only way to give it today is by working with the Matnes Bari. Mechaim Kamar. So why did he write Ubimavis? What was the point of writing about that? Because Mavis to tell you, command just like after the person dies, it's going to be forever and forever. He's trying to say, I'm giving it to you today like a regular Matnes Bari, and it's going to last. Me'ata v'adaylam, and you have forever and ever. Amri Nardoi, the halach is Lamaisa, Hilchase Kavase de Rav. The halach is like Rav. That what you just said, we consider Rav wants to say it's a matnash chimera, and you only wrote Chaim as a krechs. Amar Rava. Rava wants to say v'iksiv ba mechayim kana. So Kapshutai Rava is not going like Rav. And we're going to see in a moment. The Gemara is going to ask why would you think otherwise? Amar Meimer. Less hilchase kavase de Rava. That the halach is not like Rava. Rather, the halach is like Rav. Amar Rav Ashi la Meimer. Pshita, it's pashut that the halach is like Rav. The Amri Nardai hilchas hakavase de Rav. So why is a Meimer coming to say that the halach is not like Rav? On that the Gemara answers, now the Tema, you would say there's a difference between Bechayim from Mechayim. Maybe you would say Mechayim from the life which is today, then Moed Rav. Kamash Mulan, there is no difference of a case Mechayim Lechayim. And the Gemara is going to bring a Maisa which is going to show us a raya that there is no difference in the lashon of Bechayim and Mechayim. Who also the commander of Nachman Ardai was a person who came to Rav Nachman in Ardai, and we know we hold like Rav. So what did he do? Shadrei the commander of Yirmiyah bar Abba l'shum tamaya. So why did he send them l'shum tamaya? And the Gemara is maz, but Amar he says even though we know that halacha is like Rav. So say that's the halacha. Amar hacha asu the Shmuel. Here is the town Ardai Shmuel. How could I say against Shmuel in this town? Rather, I'm going to send you to where? L'shum tamai. There I know Zaktar Shbam, they're going to paskin like Rav. So he'll get his answer either way. So hechinavet kavasa de Rav. How can we say the halacha is like Rav? Therefore he sent him l'shum tamaya, and from shum tamaya, which is Rashbam says is a makoim, and there it's a pasha to purpose of showing us that the halacha is like Rav over there. Hahi the asoy the kamei the Rava. There was a woman, a lady came to Rava, and Rava kishmaitza. Rava said the halacha is she can't be chayzer. She got very upset about this. She was a shchimra, she wanted to be chayzer. So I have a katar delay. She would bother him and nudge him every day. What's going on? Please try to be chayzer in what you said. So Amar Leiler a Papa Bareda of Chana. He tells her Papa, who's her Papa, the son of Chanan, he was his cipher. So he tells his cipher, his Safre, he tells his cipher, Zil, go write Kosev law. Go write and Takabi Chayzer. V'Kosev ba, however, right in the Mishnah, the Sugis of Bamatzia, where you're allowed to deceive your employees. And he's trying to say that B'nai Gershman's Masber, that she was trying to say is that anybody, any Rav that sees this letter that I'm sending is going to realize that I'm just doing her to get her off my back. But Avad, I'm not Chayzer. So I have a Amaler Papa de Chanana Sav Zil Kosel the Kosel Seichalein Oh the Sugya Matin, and she right away picked up. She was, I guess, she knew halachas where she was been around the block too long. I guess she already knew all these stuff. And Amra, she says right away, Litva Arve Lashana Hu Arve we know is a ship. Let his ship sink. I do you come out this He's trying to trick me. You can't fool me. I'm way too smart for that. And what happened was the cipher. Everyone got scared. And what they did was, Shenuhu le'mani de Rava. Quickly, the Gabai went and took his clothing of Rava and soaked it in water because she said his ship should sink at least to minimize the klala. That was the concept. B'maya v'afila hachi le'ifrak mitava. His ship sunk. He couldn't save it. Zakar Shbam. Daltihi kolas hedyat kalabenecha. Don't think it's so simple. Even this Isha who's a nunnik who's driving everybody nuts, who's wrong. If she gives a klala, even against Rava, a kachav and attack work, and he lost a lot of money in the ship in that case. Zok the Heilige Mishnah on Kuf Nun Gimel Amid Aleph. Loi kasaba shchimera. Lamaisa, regular star, there's two types. The regular star says a little more information than it adds information. So if a person's healthy and well, he says, when I'm walking the Gemara's Masber, when I'm walking in the marketplace, or I'm walking, the point is I'm well. I rode over my matana, I'm giving over this matana. And he puts that in the star like that, it's very clear what happened. That's one case when a person's a bari. When a person's a shchimera, the Gemara's Masber, you're right, when I'm lying in bed and I'm dying, v'chulei, I decided to give my nechasim to Reuven. Now, our question is going to begin, what happens when the star doesn't say anything? So you could go both directions. And what's going to happen is, it's going to lead to machlokes, where the person who gave the star now wants to say he was a shchimera, therefore he could be chayzer. Or, and the Makabel is saying, what in the world are you talking about? You are a healthy bari, and the loch is, you can't be chayzer, you can't wake up now. So what is this? Let's see it inside. Like kasaba shchimera. It doesn't say anything in the star about a shchimera. Who Oimer, the Nissen is saying, Shchimera Yisi, I was a Shchimera, therefore want to be Chayzer. The Hein Oimer, no. Bari Yisi, you were nice and healthy. So what is the halacha in such a case? So here we're going to see in Machlokes, Rav Meir, and Chachamim. And we're going to see, on Kufn and Dalad on Beis, we're going to switch around all the Shitas. We're going to go with Shitas of Yosef. We're going to have to stay focused all the way till Kufn and Hey, Amad Aleph, towards the top of the Amad. We're going to be doing one Hemshech and a lot of Shitas. We're going to have Siyat Shmai. We're going to be able to get very good clarity with this whole shackle of attire for the next blot and a half. So the Mishnah clearly tells us that what is the halacha in such a case? Zakra Meir, Tzarich lahavi raya sheshchiv merahaya. The Nissen, the person who gave the matana, he has to bring a raya that he was the shchimera, that's divrei Rav Meir. V'chachamim aimrim, which you're going to see, the Gemara is going to talk extensively all these shitas. V'chachamim aimrim hamoitzi mechaverai olav haraya, and we're going to see which direction that means of hamoitzi mechaverai olav haraya. Kipshuta is that you are always a muchzuk on your karka. Me, as the mekabel, as the person who's getting matana, I have to bring a raya that you were a shchimera. Zok tehelig Gemara hu matanto davekosaba. You have a star matana that clearly says, when I was ill and I was laying in bed, and however, it doesn't say, from that illness, he went to Ilam Haba, and the Rishbam says that it was normal to write what ended up happening. So you have a star, it doesn't say such a case. So Amar Rabba wants to say in such a case, one Kufnun Gimel Amar Beis, Hare Meis, Vare Kivroi Machiach Allah. Right now he's dead, we're going to say that he died from that illness. Because again, what's happening is that the people, the Yarshim, are saying he recovered and he was chayzer, and then he eventually died. On that, Rabbah says, since Lamaisi is dead today, the halacha is we go Basra Hashta Azlinon. This is Shitas Rabbah, and therefore we're going to say that he died from this chayli, and therefore the Makabel gets it as a matana. Amalei Abai questions Hashta Umas Vino Shiruban. Which means to say it's a ship. There's Bam is Mas, but what's the case where you go to Chumrah? You have two people on a ship. Now one's a Bas Koyin that was married to Yisrael, or a Bas Yisrael that was married to Koyin. And they're both on the ship. We hear the news that the ship sunk. What is the halacha in such a case? We all know that a Bas Koyin cannot eat Truma as long as she's married to her husband who's Yisrael. When she's Chayzer, Beis Aviyah, she can eat Truma. So the question is, did he die? So we say no, we're machmer, we say that he didn't die, therefore the Bas Koyin, we're going to say is not going to be able to eat Truma, that's one case. And we go to Chumrah, when her friend, who's a Bas Yisrael, is married to a Koyin, we're going to say the Chumrah that again, that he's alive and he did not die, and sorry that he's dead and he's not alive, therefore she cannot eat Truma. So again, we go both, the Chumras in such a case, we go Chaimer Chaim and Chaimer Mason. So Madach over there in a ship, where it's normal to say that everyone's not alive. Chaylin, that the Gemara in Gittin's Masber, Sheroiv Chaylin Lechayim. Most people, they end up, they don't die from illness. Like Kol Shekain, isn't it a Kol Shekain? In such a case, that we should say that Itaka healed. So why are we saying Hare Kivroi Machiach Olav? L'chayr, we should say that a person recovered. And that the Gemara Amar Avuna Beit Rav Yeshua. Keman Ozla Shmaitza the Rabbi. No Rabbi saying that we go Basra Cheskes to Ashes. Another Machlekes. Machlekes Rab Yaakov and Rab Nosson. What's the Machlekes? And he's going to hold like Shitas Rab Nosson. The Tanya. Mi Moitzi Miyad Mi. Again, you have a scenario, Mamash's case of Matana, that it does not say a Lashon of Matanas, Shchimera, and a Lashon of Matanas, Bari. We don't know do such a case. Mamash this case, he's telling you a Bari, I'm saying you're Shchimera. So in such a case, Mi Moitzi Miyad Mi. Who brings the Raya? Zok the Gemara, who might see midayim below raya, which means the noisin could pull it out without a raya. However, the makabel, if he wants it, the hain ein might see miyada ella beraya. Divrei Reb Yaakov, Shittas Reb Yaakov is that the noisin always has the upper hand. However, Reb Nosson says it depends. Reb Nosson, it depends. In bari, if today's a bari, then who alav lavi raya shal yeshchimera. Im shchimera, if today is sick, what do we say? Who im shchimera who alein lavi raya shabari haya. So again, Shittas Reb Nosson is very clear. We go Basra chazaka the hashta. Shittas Reb Yaakov is more chazaka than mikara. We say Amal, you owned it. We're going to say you owned it till they bring a raya otherwise. So again, we're saying that Shittas Rabbah is going like Shittas Reb Nosson. It's very important because Taisus later is going to ask us, we're going to see in Kufnan Dalet, Taisus is going to ask if Rabbah is going like Shittas Reb Nosson. We're going to see, we're going to have an issue. Why should we say other Shittas, which we're going to see by Kima Shtar, which we're going to discuss in the next daf, why it's not so simple, why Rabbah is going only like Shittas Reb Nosson. On that, Zok Gemara, Amar Lezer, Gemara goes weiter, Amar Abelazar, Vilatoma is also Kamachloikis. The Tanan, Biko b'Maisachama, Rishus HaYachil Shabbos is Rishus HaRabim L'Tumas. Let's get a little context what's going on over here regarding Tumah. Now, we all know by Tumah, if you're Suffolk, Tumah, depends where it is. Rishus HaYachid, we say you're a Vadei Tumah. Rishus HaRabim, if it's a Suffolk, we give you a halacha that you're not Tumah. The reason is we learn Tumah from Saita. Saita of law that has to be, by Saita has to be secluded, has to be Rishus HaYachid, just like by a suffix of a Saita, it depends if it's like Rishus HaYachid. Who are then regular Tumah, when you go on a bone and you're not sure if you're Tumah or not. That's one halacha. And then we have another halacha regarding the Rishmamas Mazvar. Our case is talking about a bikah that's surrounded with 10 tvachim high fences, even though it has a karfuf. The halacha is going to be that it's as long as people do not go in it, it's going to be a halacha of a Rishus HaRabim. If people go in, it depends. Maisachama, Maisachamim, then it's going to be considered Rishus HaYachid. So let's see. Bikah be Maisachama, where people are inside it. Then the halacha is it's a Rishus HaYachid regarding Hilchas Shabbos. Rishus HaRabim L'Tumah. Why is it Rishus HaRabim L'Tumah? Because people are there. Tumah is only considered when it's secluded and nobody's there. Therefore, we're going to say it has halacha Rishus HaRabim. However, b'Maisak Shamin, we're talking about the ready in the rain when no one goes in there because you don't want to ruin anything. Then the halacha is it's a Rishus HaYachid Bein L'Tumah and Bein L'Shabbos L'kan L'kan. And now, in such a halacha, so why are we bringing this over here? Zakir Shbam, fascinating, he says, this is where Rav Nosson takes place. Rav Nosson wants to say, it depends when the person asks the question. Dahainu, a person pulls up to his Rav and says, I don't remember when I was in this bikah. It might have been the winter, it might have been the summer. And we just found out right now that it depends. Is the halacha, let's say for tumah, he's not sure if he went over a bone. If it's in the winter, the halacha is it's considered a Rishus HaYachid, he's tumah. And if it was in the summer, he's considered Rishus HaRabim and he's tar. So he says, I absolutely have no memory when I went in. On that, Zakir Rishbam, Rav Nosson is going to tell you, depends today, which is a fascinating chiddush, it depends when are you asking the question. Are you asking the question today in the summer? If it's the summer, we're going to give you halacha Rishus HaRabim. However, it's the winter, we're going to give you halacha Rishus HaYachid. That Rishbam wants to say, this is what the Gemara is bringing out, that Rav Nosson is going to say, this is the machlokes, we're going to have Rav Yaakov Rav Nosson in a case where you forgot, and you're saying, and it depends when you're asking the question. And Rabbi Yaakov, there's just to fear ice. Rabbi Yaakov saying, Rabbi Yaakov's going to say, you're going to go Basra Cheskas Kashrus, that you're a tahar, and therefore it does not depend when you ask the question. And we're going to go Hamed al Cheskas Tahar until you bring Eidim, that you are dafka there, b'mois haksham. Zok Demar Vaita, Amar Rava, Rava says, Loishanu ella shaloi avru olav yimais haksham. Rabbi says something fascinating, that once the winter and the summer already passed, the full year passed, then the halacha is that the winter already passed, you never lose that halacha, and you have to understand why. The Rishbam says it says Chumr D'Abananhu. Taisa says, how could you understand such a svara? The Einir Klal Zak Taisis Ke'ezis Svari, that once it passes, it should change the halacha. Ayin Sham Taisis Barichis. Okay, we're going to go and continue in Shitas Chachamim Aimrim Hamaitzi Mechaveiroi Olav Haraya, which we understood as a basic pshat that the Mekabel has to bring a raya. And the question is, we're going to see in a moment, what is the raya that he needs to prove? We're on Kuf Nun Dalid Ahmed Aleph Raya B'mai, and there's Bam saying we're asking Bein Rabbanon Bein Rameir, what is the raya that he's bringing? And we're going to see that Rav Huna Amar Raya is going to be be'edim. He's going to bring edim that what? We're going to see that the chayr raya is that he was a shchimera. V'Rav Chizda v'Rabbi Rav Huna Amri Rayo B'Kiyam Ashtar. And we're going to see in a moment why that changes anything. How do you understand Kiyam Ashtar? Now, just to be clear, even though the Rashbam says Bein L'Rameir, Bein L'Rabbanan, there's no question about it that according to Shitas Rameir, that you're trying to what? That the person, the Naisen, needs to bring the Raya, then there's no such thing as Kiyam Ashtar. Kiyam Ashtar can only take place in a scenario where the Mekabel is going to be Mekayim Ashtar once we understand the basic Gemara. So let's see it inside. Rav Huna Merayos be'edin kamiflagi b'palukta der Yaakov Rav Nassim, like we just learned on Kufnun Gimel and Beis, we have a machlekes if you go Basra Chazaka the Hashto, you go Basra Chazaka the Mikara. So it's very simple Raya. That what? And Simin Maniach for a mayor of Nassim, Rabbi Yaakov Mashitas Chacham. There a mayor is going to go Basra Chazaka the Hashto Kirab Nassim. If you go Basra Chazaka the Hashto, therefore right now we say L'char we're understanding he's a bari today. That's where a mayor says that you have to bring a Raya or Shchivmara. Rabbana is going to hold like Rabbi Yaakov that what Chazaka de Mikara. This was in my Rishus. Therefore, in order for you to be Mitzvah, you have to bring a Raya. That's the easy mahalach of Rav Huna and Tzmachlekes Rabbi Yaakov Rav Nas. Now we're going to see Rav Chizda ve'Rabbi Rav Huna Amri. No, Raya b'Kiyam Ashtar kamiflugi. So what's the shaila? How are we comparing the machlekes in our Mishnah of Rav Meir and Shitas Chachamim have anything to do with Kiyam Ashtar? So the Gemara says, "But Moide b'Shtar shekosvui tzarich l'kaimai." There Meir holds over Moide b'Shtar shekosvu ain't tzarich l'kaimai. V'Rabbana Savri Moide b'Shtar shekosvu tzarich l'kaimai. So we must give context to really understand what is going on with Kiyam Ashtar. Now, there's two points we have to bring out. There's a concept we all know in Ksubis of a Pesha Asar or Pesha Hitter. Person, a Shvuya, a girl is able to say, Nishbeisi v'tayirani. Why? Because she's the one who gave the Isser, we gave the hat to Huadin Hacha. When a person, we're going to compare the two over here, that do we say this concept when a person says, yes, I wrote the star, however, ... Over here in our specific case, he's saying that what? I was a chayla. Therefore, the star does not work. So how are we going to bring it to Maide b'Shtar Shekasa in Tzach or not? Is as follows. A person gets up and says, yes, I wrote the star. So if we stop right there and we ask ourselves, do you need to be Mekayim or not? If the answer is you don't need to be Mekayim, then you're done. There's no Pashas anymore. Why? Because you were already Mekayim your star. You're gone. However, if you hold Tzarech L'Kaima, then therefore my Pesha Asa sticks, and the Rishbam Masber, to explain a little better between the concepts of Maidim Shtar Shekosroi is really totally, how do we understand when a person wrote his star? What is the taina that a person has of Ein Tzarech L'Kaima? And the Rishbam Masber, a mayor holds that you only have a rech, when a person pulls out a star, you have a rech to appeal it, to dispute it. But you have no other kaiches. Therefore what? The second you're Maid that's a good star, you're done, because you lost your rechla saying it's a forgery. We don't need to be Makayim it. It's that you had a schos to come and try to knock it out. The second you give up that schos because you agreed, and therefore that's going to be the machlekes of the year of Ein Tzarech L'Kaim or not. There are mayor holds Ein Tzarech L'Kaim. Therefore the second you're Maideh, I don't need to bring a Raiva Chacham. I'm still Tzarech L'Kaim. Therefore what? So even though as Maidai wrote the star, Afal Pekin have a Pesha Asa Pesha Hitter, and you, the Mekabel, has to bring a Rai. Frekting Mara. If Lagur Bechadazim no ready, have a Machlaikis. Where is this? The Mara and Ksubis Detanya. Ein Nemanim Lapaisloi Divra Meir. Vachachamim Oivim Nemanim. Again, a lot of this next plan I have is going to have a lot of context. So Rashbam is Mazur, what's the case? We're talking about the Gemara and Ksubis says, where a person gets up, Adam come and say, yes, we wrote the star, or we were ktanim. So in such a case again, Adam is saying, yes, we wrote the star, it's a good star. It's not, however, it's not, we wrote the star, however, it's not a good star because we were ktanim. So again, it's totally in the same machlekes of what? Of could you be Naman or not? And the Gemara over there is Masber, the machlekes, that according to Chachamim nor Meir says, Ein Naman in the place of because they hold Maidim Shtar Shekosvu, Ein Tzarech L'Kaim. The Chachamim hold they are Naman, Mitan, the Pshat, and Maidim Shtar Shekosvu, Tzarech L'Kaim. It's a frak the Gemara. I don't understand. Why in the world do we need to say two cases? Over here, our case is Maidim Shtar Shekosvu, and the case in Ksubis is the exact same thing we're understanding. And that the Gemara says, no, Tzricha. Di'it marahi bahi kamir rabbanan. If you're going to tell me dafka the case in Ksubas, I'll tell you that I understand the rabbanan is agreeing. Why? Mishum da'alimi edim umari shtara. You can't compare our case where the person is the baldavar to edim. Edim, we all know, they could go and knock out the star. They're powerful. Edim are the ones who are in control. Therefore, maybe I'll say a malay. That's why I needed the case in Ksubas. V'yit mabaha, b'hakam meir of b'hach, and it's near where this Eidim, Eimim Maidul Rabbanon, they ain't tzarech l'kaim, Mela Tzricha. So again, we're going to need this for Kufn Down on the base. We're going to have to remember this Shakla V'tarya that we started off. The Machlaikis of Kiyam Ashtar is told in Mother Shtar B'Shakasvui, and we asked in Ksubas, we find the same Machlaikis, and on that we're answering, Eidim is a limi. Therefore, you would have a hami, not Kamash one. We have the same Machlaikis, Ben Ksubas, Ben Hacham. V'chein Amar Rabba also says Raya is Behedim, which is Shitas Rav Huna. Amalei Abaya, my time. What's Takab Shot? So Abaya asks Rabba, why are you saying this? Inema. So Gemara goes right. Inema, you're going to tell me. Midakuluk Sibahu. Every single star has Kadhava Mahalacha Regalei B'Shukah, like we started the Mishnah with, and we were masber. That every star says when I was walking in the Shuk, Ubahal like Sibah, Shmamini, you're going to tell me Shchimmer Rahave, Adarabba, you don't have a ride the other direction also. Midakuluk Sibu, every man Shchimmer says what? Kat Kotsev Rami Ba'arse, when I was ill and I was lying in bed, like Sibah, Shmamina Bari Have. So you can't go any direction. And that's like the Gemara. So Einachanami, this is Takab Shana Rav that says Rai Be'edim. You know why? You're right, you could go any direction. You could either say it was a matnas bari, you could say matnas shchimera. So what do you do in such a case? Uki mamaynoi becheskes mari, and we leave it by the nisin. We say he's the one holding on to it. Ube palukta, we're going to find the same machlekes that we have over here. Rav Huna and Rav Chizda is also machlekes. Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. This is also very important to remember because we're going to go back this. We have to underline this. Rabbi Yochanan is Amar Raya Be'edim. The Gemara is going to question. We're going to have to say Epoch. But now we're understanding Rabbi Yochanan is the one who says Raya Be'edim like Rav Huna. For Rav Shimon Reish Lakish Amar Raya B'kiyam Ashtar like Rav Chizda and Rabbah. Rabbi Yochanan to Reish Lakish. Ace Rabbi Yochanan to Rav Shimon Reish Lakish. You, for now, before we do the Hepoch, you, Rabbi Shimon Reish Lakish, that says Raya B'kiyam Ashtar. Ma'isa b'Bnei Brak. And very interesting, the Rashbam says Bnei Brak is a makkah. Maybe you could say the reason why it says Bnei Brak is to tell us because we're handling B'Bnei, we're handling Yerusha. Maybe you would say Bnei, and you'll get a little confused of Yerusha. And we're saying Ma'isa is Bnei Brak is a makkah. So it's very important to remember this Ma'isa. We're going to see this Ma'isa over and over in the next block. Regarding Rebbe Kiva, what happened was there was a Ma'isa in Bnei Brak, a person, Taka died. And he sold his father's Nechasim. The son was Yersh, he sold the Nechasim, then the son died. Now what happened was, the Yarshim of this person saying that this person who sold it never had a recht. Why? Because he was a katan. And we're going to see katan, lav dafka over here means katan the way we understand it, rather katan that he wasn't 20 years old, which we're going to see in a moment. Machlaik is 18 or 20. We're going to learn why a person can't sell his nechas until he's 20 years old or 18. So they're tiny that what? He was a katan haya b'shas misa, and he was never able to sell it. So they went to Rabbi Kiva and they asked him, what is the halach in such a case? Uba'u v'sholus Rabbi Kiva mahu levaitkai. Can we check out the body? Dahainu, you're tiny to us that he's a katan, and the reason why he's a katan because he doesn't have shtei cyrus. On that they're saying, okay, let's pull out the body and see if he has shtei cyrus. Amar lahan, Rabbi Kiva tells them right away, first of all, you cannot take out the body. You can't defile a body just because you have a shayla over here. Void. And either way you have a different issue is simanim asuyin l'shtanois la'achar misa. So again, since it's not going to help, and that Rabbi, so what's the kasha? The Gemara is masber. And that Rabbi Yochanan is asking Shimon Reish Lakish, you Rabbi Shimon Reish Lakish, are telling me that what? That you hold is the Rai B'Kim Ashtar, one kuf nun gim, then nun da'od on the he says as follows. Bishlama lididi, I hold that mean as Raya Be'edim. I can understand Kiman the Amar Lelekuchais. What happened was the Lekuchais said, you know what? We'll bring Edim. We're understanding the Lekuchais. Now, how many we're going to see in the next daf? We're going to see that it comes out that the Lekuchais had the Nechasim. But here we understand the Lekuchais did not have the Nechasim. So what happened was the Lekuchais came over and said, I want the property. The father sold it. The son sold it. And what are the Yarshim saying? Our son did not sell it. So we can understand the back and forth. The Rishbam saying the guy went and said, you know what? Let me find Eidim that he was a gadol. And they come back. Unfortunately, we can't find Eidim. So in such a case, we can understand that since they didn't find Eidim, they wanted to pull out the body. So Bishmal did I mean arrive Eidim kivan amalekuchas iso Eidim. I'm going to go get Eidim loy ashkechu hainu dekaasu. Then they came back empty-handed. Can we at least pull out the body to see if there's two sires? According to you, the Amri is only Raya B'Kim Ashtar. According to you, Rish Lakish, you want to say that the rise became a star. What are you checking, pulling out the body to see is a gadol? Just be Mekayim the star and move on. Look with the kind of a star, look with nechsi. You don't need to go pull out the body. I understand when there's Eidim, you try getting in, you couldn't find it. Over here, all you have to do is be Mekayim the star. And then he answers, no, you're making a mistake. Rish Lakish tells Rabbi Yechanan, Mi Savris, do you really think the Nechasim, the Nichses, Bechaskas, B'nei Mishpacha Kayami? It's not that it's sitting in the hands of the Mishpacha and the Lukuchas are trying to pull it out. Rather, no. What happened? Also, the Lukuchas Mari? No. Nichses where? Bechaskas Lukuchas Kayami. They already have it in their hands. The Ka'asu B'nei Mishpacha, now the family's coming, the Kamari, and they're trying to pull it away. On that, what happened was, it makes sense that since they're trying to pull it away, there's no such thing as Kiyam Shtar. What could he be Mekayim the Shtar with? Again, you have to remember, if the family can be Mekayim the Shtar. It's only the Kuchais that have an option of being Mekayim a Shtar. On that, and then that the Gemara is Masber, and that's what makes sense. That the Taka went and asked them. What happened was, Hachinami Bistabra. Taka makes sense that it was the family members who wanted to pull out the body. Why? The Reb Kiva gave the Musar. You're trying to pull out the body for money? You can't do the fall of your family's body. However, you can understand the Musar. You're going to tell me the purchasers. They have nothing to do with the family. Why stay quiet? I don't care that you wanted to fall. Yes. You don't. You guys are playing shtick. The family members. They want to take away menachas and pull out the body. What do you mean? You don't want to give us the money? Lenavel. Yes, you should devour the body. Lawyer, you can't bring a raya. Why? First of all, I'll tell you why. Hachi kamalu chada. First of all, this is what Rekiv is telling them. Diatem rishayim lenavloi. You're not allowed to defile the body. Even you, the Lekuchas, are going to try to weigh and say, let's defile the body because we don't care because you're playing around. Because they're taking away our money. It still doesn't help because of Simonim, Asuyin, Lishtanos, La'acharmis. Let's go weiter. Shul Reb Shimon, they take out the Toshma. So they don't use this Toshma. Shul, Reb Shimon, Bais Medrash Lakish, it's Rabbi Yechanan. I'm going to have to stay very, very focused because we're going to do at the bottom of the Amud a lot of hipuchs. In order that it shouldn't be two hipuchs in our head, we have to really follow the Shakla V'Tar to really get a very clear understanding of what's going on in the Shakla V'Tar. Shul Reb Shimon, Lakish, Rabbi Yechanan. Zuz Shenuya, B'Mishnas Bar Kafra, Mishnas Bar Kafra is all the brises that Bar Kafra compiled. Guys eating in his field. No one's been bothering him. For years he's eating. Vikara olav echad ira laimashali comes a Marikam and says, it's my son, please leave. V'haitzi says, I know, this guy pulls out a star. Laimashemachartili shunasati limatane says, I don't know what you're talking about, I have a star. So it depends. Im amar eni makim shtar zema'ilam. If the Marikam says, I don't recognize the star, then the Allah is iskayim shtar b'chesamav. In a chanami, he's trying to get a forgery, you have to go and be Mekayim it. However, im Amar Shtar Pasimu. Shtar Pasim is that you're able to be Mfaisim and you trick him to write you a star like that, you can show you're wealthy, and then you mess him over. Or Shtar Amana, you pay him up front, you trust him a little. Or Shtar Amana Shemachatcha. V'loy Nasati Lidamim, you never paid him. So it depends. In Yeshedim, then no problem. Holach Achar Edim. V'im Lav Holach Achar Shtar, which in one word means Ein Tzarech L'Kaimai. Because you're Moided that you wrote the star, Ein Tzarech L'Kaimai. So Lema, Zoktimar, let's say it's Rameir Damar, Maidim Shtar Shekasu, Ain't Tzarech L'Kaim V'Lo Rabbanon, because we learned on Amud Aleph very clearly to Machlekes Rameir Rabbanon. That's how we learned our Mishnah of Maidim Shtar Shekasu Tzarech L'Kaim and not. Amar Lei tells him Loi, and then he says no. Shani Aimer, it's very crucial. Yechanan tells him Shani Aimer Divrei Hakol. Divrei Hakol Maideh, even Rabbanon. This is what I'm understanding the sugya right now. Even Rabbanon is Maideh. B'shtar shekatzu eine tzarech l'kayim. Frak the Gemara v'miflog pligi. What are you going to do with the Gemara in Ksubas? The Tanan eine manin lepaisla divrei meir v'chachamim aimrim nemanim. And how did we learn the Mishnah in Ksubas? We asked, why do you need the Mishnah? Why do we need our Mishnah? We already have Mishnah in Ksubas. And the Mishnah in Ksubas were masbers, the same machlekes from meir and chachamim. If what? Moidesh to b'shtar shekatzu. If you need to be mekayim it or not. So what are you going to do with the Mishnah in Ksubas? Amalei. You can't compare the two. You can't compare the two because again, just like we understood the Mishnah in Ksubas, there's Eidim. They said in your name because it was Elazar who was his Talmud, and every time he was saying his Talmud, he was saying the name of Yechanan. Amalei Elazar Amalei B'Alei Meshimcha Amru Yafa Iru B'nei Mishpacha. What happened in the Ma'aser of Bnei Brak? Again, let's remind ourselves. The Ma'aser of Bnei Brak, that they were trying to pull out the body, and he said yes, he was taka good in such a case. So we see again that the Bnei Mishpacha were able to bring a taina of what? Of Ein Tzarech L'Kaimer or not. Amalei, no, that was my Talmud Zu Elazar Amrani. I never said this in the Veld. Lani Lo Yamarti Dova Zem Oilam. So on that, Reb Zera gets up and he says, on this Reb Zera says, Amr Reb Zera, Em Yichbar, Reb Yechanan, Reb Elazar Talmidai. No, you want to say your Talmud, it wasn't you. But Yichbar, Reb Yanei, Rabbi. Now we're going to learn the Amr Reb Yanei, Amr Rabbi, Moedish Dam Shakasu. We're going to learn it with the Mahalach of, we're going to take out the parentheses. If you look in the Rishbam, I'm learning the Amr Reb Yechon Behed Tzarech L'Kaima. So we're not going to be learning. I don't know how the Oilam learned in their Daf Yomi Shiur. With there's two mahachim with tzarech l'kaima of ein tzarech l'kaima. We're going to learn it with tzarech l'kaima. Then in such a case, Rabbi Yanai tells him, "Ma'ideh b'shtar shekasu tzarech l'kaima." Rabbi Yanai, who's his Talmud, says that a person who's ma'ideh b'shtar shekasu, you have to be mekayim. V'amar le Rabbi Yechon. Rabbi Yechon says, "Yeah, Rabbi, loimish neseinu izu. This is our Mishnah of what? V'chachamim oimrim ha'moitzim mechaveiroi olav araya." So in such a case of chachamim saying that you make a raya in a chanami. On that he said, "Oh, ve'ein raya ela b'kiyum ashtar." So you clearly see that what we're saying that the machlokes is again ma'ideh b'shtar shekasu ain't tzarech l'kaim not. And that he says, "Amapecha beram nirin divrei Rabbeinu Yosef." We're going to have however in a chanami. You're right. I don't know what to do with such a case, because in such a case, what should I tell you? You're clearly bringing me a raya from Rabbi Yanai. The Rabbi Yanai says that what? You have to be mekayim, and there Rabbi Yechanan says this is our Mishnah. In such a case, that he says that you do, the makabel does need to be mekayim the shtar. So if the makabel needs to be mekayim the shtar, that means ain't tzarech l'kayim. On that we're saying Rabbi Yosef ein chanami. We're going to make a ma'apech over here. We're going to say Beram Nirin Devrim Rabbi Yosef. Amar Rabbeinu of Yosef. Amar Rav Yehuda Shmuel Zu Divrei Chachamim. That whole day in tzarech l'kayim. Aber Meir Oimim Ma'ideh b'shtar shekasvu shetzarech l'kayim. Wow. Okay, Frek Demaro, my Divrakol. What do you mean? When we asked you earlier, is the Bais of Bar Kathra going like Shitas Rav Meir and Shitas Chachamim? We thought it was only going like Rav Meir and Chachamim. Now you answer, no, I even go like Divrakol. And before we understood Divrakol and Chachamim, and here we say, no, the Adarab. Divrakol is who is Shitas Chachamim. Rav Meir is the meat. Rav Meir doesn't hold Tzarech l'Kaima. Rav Meir is the one who holds rather Tzarech l'Kaima. My Divrei Akol, the Rabbanon, the Gaber, the Rav Meir is considered Divrei Akol. Frek Gemara, this is all the Hipchas v'Hipcha Tnan. We clearly learned v'Chachamim Oimim Hamoitzim Mechaveir Olav Araya. And the way we learned Hamoitzim Mechaveir Olav Araya, that the Mekabel still needs to be Mekayim, which means Ma'ideh b'shtar shekasu Tzarech l'Kaima. Mar answers Epoch. You have to say no. The Meir is the one who holds tzarech l'kaimai, and the Chachamim is going to hold ain't it tzarech l'kaimai. Frek Gemara, we know the Gemara in Ksubas. The Gemara in Ksubas, there we clearly learned. In such a case where the person says, "Ein echanam, we signed it. Aval anusim ayinu, ktanim ayinu. V'atanya nemanim paisloi divrei Meir v'chachamim oimrim nemanim." In that case, we clearly understood that Rav Meir is the Chachamim is the one who holds tzarech l'kaimai. Again, you have to say epoch, which you're flipping it around. By that, you're saying no. Rather, it's Rav Meir the whole tzarech l'kaimai. That therefore, it's not going to be the Chachamim oimrim. When you see divrei Meir neman neman l'paisloi is Chachamim. Rav Meir is the one who holds neman l'paisloi. Frek Gemara Rabbi Yechanan. Clearly, we started the daf. Rabbi Yechanan says, which was 8-9 lines from Kupnam Da'adam and Alpha. I said you have to remember that Rabbi Yechanan says clearly Raya be'edim. So that means Shita's like Rav Huna. What are you saying now? How can you tell me the Shaila is Ma'ideh b'shtar shekasu in tzarech l'kaimai? Rabbi Yechanan Raya be'edim ka'amar, and it clearly means edim. Therefore, you clearly would see, if anything, you need to be mekayim. Mar answers epoch again. You have to change it. Rabbi Yechanan is the one who holds Raya b'kiyum shtar. Frek Gemara lema leipach nami tiyufta, which was on Kupnan Dalad we asked. Rabbi Yechanan is asked Rish Lakish from the Ma'aser of Bnei Brak. Why? Here we're telling us, how do you understand the Ma'aser? Rabbi Yechanan says, I hold Raya b'edim, you hold kiyum b'shtar. So I have a kasha for you. You hold kiyum b'shtar. I have a problem with the Ma'aser of Bnei Brak. What was the case of Ma'aser of Bnei Brak? That the mishpacha wanted to pull out the body. What happened was they wanted to pull out the body. And Rabbi Kiva said you can't be manavel it. On that we said, Manavshach, according to me, I hold Raya be'edim, I understand what happened. I tried bringing edim, I couldn't prove it. However, you became a shtar, so be mekayim the shtar. So for tomorrow, wait a second, we just switched it. The Rabbi Yechanan is the one who holds kiyum shtar. So maybe we have to read it. That's Esri, Rav Shem Meish Lakish, Rabbi Yechanan. So you should do that. The Gemara says no. Leipa nami tiyufta. Gemara says like hachi kamelei Rabbi Yechanan kupna ne'amad aleph hachi kamelei Rabbi Yechanan lo Shimon Shlakish bishma lididi. Remember this. Now I'm switching this. And Rabbi Yechanan doesn't want to hold Raya B'Edim. Rather, Rabbi Yechanan holds Raya B'Kiyam Ashtar. Bishma lididi. I mean a Raya B'Kiyam Ashtar. Hainu de mashkachas. I understand. The nachsi lekuchas l'nechasim. Because here we change it that what? Not that the purchasers are trying to be mitzi the nechasim of the yarshim. Rather, what happened was the kuchais have the nechasim, and the bnei mishpach are trying to pull it out. How did they get in the first place? So Rabbi Yechanan says, me that I hold the kiyam shtar makes sense how they got it because they were in the kind of shtar. The nachsu lekuchas nechasim. Elali didach the whole damers rai be'edim. Heichem ashkachas la the nachsu lekuchas nechasim. Manakshach. Did they bring edim or they didn't bring edim? And that he says, Amalei, and that Rish Lakish tells back to Rabbi Yechanan, I'll tell you how they got it. They didn't get it by Mimikayim the Shtar. Amalei, Medina Loch, Be'ir, the Bnei Mishpacha. The Mishpacha is complaining to Lav Iru. Why is it not Iru? Because what's their taina? My Kamri, Katan Aya. They're trying to say that he was a Katan. That can be. We have Eidim signing on such a star. Chazaka and Ein Eidim Chaism el Shtar Ela Im Kain Nasa Gadol. There's no such a thing as a person signing on a star. Chazaka, therefore, they don't have a taina of ir. So again, we started the sugya. There are mayors, the one who holds Ein Tzarech L'Kaimai, and only what? Only Eidim helps to give it to the Naisim. And now we're switching, and that's Shitas Rameir. Shitas Chachamim holds Tzarech L'Kaimai. How could he be Mekayim? Rabbi Yechanan wants to say with Eidim. Reish Lakish wants to say Rabbi Yechanan wants to say Eidim, and Reish Lakish wants to say B'Kiyam Ashtar. Now we deal with the Homa Pecha, changes around. Reb Meir is the one who holds Tzarech L'Kaimai. Chachamim hold Ein Tzarech L'Kaimai. How could he do it in Shitas Reb Meir Tzarech L'Kaimai? That's also a Mapecha. Rabbi Yechanan's the one who holds B'Kiyam B'Shtar. So you don't read the Gemara. Rabbi Yechanan Amar Rai B'Eidim is not true. Rabbi Yechanan holds B'Kiyam B'Shtar. Reish Lakish says B'Eidim, and that Eis Rabbi Yechanan Reish Lakish. Again, that stays. Out of the whole Mapecha that we did with this whole Amud, that's the one thing that stays. The Kasha stays, but the one thing you have to understand, the difference between Kuf Nun Dalet and Kuf Nun Ham and Aleph is the Chilik, is the having of what we understood. Who's holding on to the Chasim of Bnei Brak? Was it the Lekuchais or was it the Mishpacha? Okay. Let's go weiter. Again, it's not easy to keep with all the shitas, but we have to go weiter. Zok the Gemara, Itmar. Yeah, Itmar. Koton, Meimasai, Meicher b'nichseyav. Now again, a koton is very clear. We're not talking about a koton that's under 13. Rather, we're talking about a koton that's over 13 in the Gemara's masber that a person, people are going to take advantage of Yisayimim. Since they walk over to Yisayimim, we're going to see why, how they do that. So the halach is you have to be a certain age more than that. On that, the Gemara says, Rav Amar Rav Nachman, Ben Shmoyna Asrei. Once you're 18 years old, it's not a problem. You're considered adult l'chol davar, and you can buy anything. Rav Huna, by Rav Chinana, Amar Rav Nachman ben Esrim Shani, you have to be 20 years old. So the Shmam right away says, we're talking about karka. Dafka karka, and again, Rishonim explains, since you're Yerush, easy come, easy leave. Someone who doesn't work hard for his money, it's easy to give it away. So since you're Yerush, your father's karka, it's very easy to get rid of it. However, we're going to see, regarding metaltalim, we're going to say once you're 6 or 7, depending how sharp you are, then you could already sell your nechasim. The Gemara is going to say adarabba. We want it to be by regarding metaltalim that a person can sell it. So Zok the Gemara, the way of a machlekes 18 or 20. The Rava that says 18 years old, la beferish itmar, ella mechlala itmar. Right, they learned it from a Maisa. Maisa, Rav Zera, Rav Zera as follows. We have a Maisa b'bnei Brak be'echot shemacha b'nichsei. We just learned this Maisa. Umeis ubal b'nei mishpacha ve'iru loimer katan haya. They were tiny as a katan, he couldn't sell b'shas Misa. Ubal v'sholas shebekiva mal levaytkai. And Amalahen, iatem rashayim lenavle. First of all, you cannot defile the body v'oit simanim asuyin l'shtan l'slachem Misa. So what's the kasha? What's the raya? What's the difference between 18 and 20? So Zaktamar Bishma Lamandam, we can understand. Ben Shmanas Reshana Hayu is 18 years old. Hainu de Ka'asuva Amrle Maulevaitkoi. The Hainu, go check if what one Kufnun Hayam Beis. Go check to see if he brought Shtei Cyrus. And if he doesn't have Shtei Cyrus, he's going to say he's a Katan. Because you have the age between 18 and 20. Eli Amrit mi Ben Esrim. If you're going to tell me you can only sell it when you're 20, ki Batkule Mai Havi, what's the help to sell it? Vatanan Ben Esrim Shalai Hevi Shtei Cyrus. You have someone who's 20 years old already, doesn't bring bring shtei cyrus. Yevi raya, all he has to do is bring a raya shu ben esim, v'hu asaris. Now a person, we all know, asaris is someone who's not maturing, he's not getting puberty, he can't be mazriya v'chulei. So in such a case, b'manashach, if he's already 20 years old, what's the help to show us if he has 2 cyrus or not? What was the havamino? Because we know that someone who's ready 20 years old, loy chaylitz v'loy miyabim, because the whole point of doing yibum is lahakim al shem alchim, and he can't have kids. My answer is no. Lavit, my law, Amar Shmuel. Didn't we already say this? Amar Shmuel, Rav Yitzchak, Amar Rav. V'hu shenoldu boy simani Cyrus. The Rishbam says that simanim hamufasharim be Yavamis. He doesn't bring it out, but the Gemara in Yavamis discusses. I know in Bais over there, what's simani Cyrus? The Gemara says someone who has a soft head, someone you can't recognize his voice if it's an Ishar ish, someone when he's mashed in, if there's a lot of other Zachen going over there, Tzerik Echetz v'chulei ayin sham. But the point is, Dafko, when the simane hasaris, when he has other simanim, if he has a soft head, and he doesn't have 2 cyrus, that's when you become a cyrus. Otherwise, you don't say a cyrus. Rabba Dikanami Diktani, what's it say? V'hu cyrus. What's it mean, the cyrus? And that was saying he's the cyrus when he has other simanim that's brought down Yavam's payment base. Shma Amina. Until when? Okay, I got it from 20 when there's simanim. What happens if there's no simanim? He looks regular, but he doesn't have shtei cyrus. Until when you're going to say he's considered a cyrus? Tani Rav Chiad Roif Shnaisov, until a person is Roif Shnaisov. The Rishbam says he's 36 years old, because a typical person lasts, he lives till 70. I don't know if it changed, but the point is 36 years old, ready Roif Chayav. Ki also the Kamei Rav Chiad. What happened was people would come to Rav Chiya and they wouldn't have the simanim yet. They wanted to see if they could get the 2 cyrus. And he would tell them, if they're very thin, livery. You have to gain weight, because maybe you're not having cyrus because you're too thin. Your body's too emaciated. However, you're too fat, it's very possible the body's not producing cyrus. Lose weight. The hani simanim, zimnin da'asu machmas kichushusa, zimnin da'asu machmas. Sometimes it comes from being too heavy, sometimes being too light. You have to change your guf in order to get it. Now we have a shayla as follows. Yiboilu toich zman is kelifnei zman oy kelachar zman. Now, we all know when a person asks someone, he says, I'm 18 years old. In reality, he's not really 18, he's really 19. He already completed 18 complete years, and he's on his 19th year, because a person starts off 5 months, 6 months, and then he turns 1 year old. It's not the day he's born, he says he's a year old. So in such a case, what happens? Kelifnizman. I knew today's day and age, he's really 17. So if a person says he's 17, he's really what? He's really up to his 18th. That's really what he's up to, if he would use the terminology of months. So the problem is, what's the halacha when a person's 17 or 19, depending on 20 or 18? What is the halacha when he's really only 17? Do we consider now he's already 18? In halacha, do we say no? You have to really be completely 18 on your 19th birthday. Amar Rav Nachman, Teichzman is kelifnei, and therefore it's not a good mechira. However, Rav Shila Rav Nachman, Teichzman is kelachazman. We're going to see, we're going to paskin. At the end of the Gemara, we're going to paskin Teichzman is kelifnei. Again, the Rav Lav Hershitmar. Why? There was this person who was 17 or 19. The hu teichsman, the azul zavenichsi. He sold his father's nechasim, and then he regretted it big time. He didn't sell it. So man the chazas of mishum teichsman kalifnei zman, because he was 17. So you clearly see that he holds kalifnei zman. V'lohi. There was a very specific incident that Rava said that it's not a good mechira. Hasam shetuzi yiseri sechazabe. So this guy he knew nothing about business. Dava kamashachal al-abdi, he would freeze avodim. V'zei b'chinam. Why are you throwing away your money? There's no reason for throwing that away. Elamai, he saw this person is not reliable, therefore he said but maybe in a regular case, even though he's 17 and 19, if he's a smart guy, we're going to see in a moment, then maybe we would say it's a regular good mechir. Tinoikis, we're going to see why Dafka 14, it's not Dafka. A girl, there was a Ma'aser Shai, we're going to see in a moment, it was a Ma'aser Shai Kachaya. That there was this girl who was 14 years old in a day, and Yaidash, Betiv, Masu, Matun, Mahu. What is the Shaila when you have someone who's a Gadol, he's already 13, we're going to see it doesn't make a difference, he's 13, but he's very smart, he runs a business. Car like Scheiner's car detail, the guy over here, he's 13 years old, right? He runs a business, so such a person, he's a Chacham. And such a person who's already 13, what is the halacha? Could he sell his, do we say it's a good mechira? So, Shalachle, Im Yadas, Betiv, Masu Matin, he knows how to run a business already, Mecha Mekach, Memkara Memkar. Frak Demara, why do you say tinoikis? What about a tinik? Velishlich tinik. My answer is kachaya. Ma'aser shaya kachaya. Velishlich ready asked by 12. Why 14? Tinoikis. But shtemas shana b'yamechad. Again, ma'aser shaya kachaya. Again, Zok Demara v'hav Rabbi la b'freishit ma'alam chlal leitmar. Dahu pachis mi ben asim. There was a person who was under 20 and he knew how to sell. The Azal Zav Nichse Avu, he went and sold his father's Nechasim like who? Gidam Manasha. Gidam Manasha just told us a moment ago that if a person's he's some smart guy, knows how to run a business, even though he's not 20 years old, he can sell. Asuk made the Rava. What happened was, and then he had Charatim. Amaisa was a bad deal. So they wanted to pull up the Rava and basically trick Rava and show him that this kid's not smart. So the Kroivim gave a patent. Asuk made the Rava. They went in front of Rav, and Amule Kroivim, the Kroivim of this boy said, Zil, make believe you're not the brightest bull. Zil echel tamri, go eat dates, v'shadi bekashis, and go throw the dates in the pits in Rava's house, be Rava. And then Rava's going to say, this guy's not so smart. So, kachava, avad hachi, and Amule is vina lazvini. He said, no, this kid can't sell stuff. Kikas katzvul, another kucha is chap, what happened? And they realized they got duped by the Kroivim. They figured, let's do a counterattack, and we're going to show Rava that the kid's taka smart. Why? Kikatzvul shtar, when they're writing the shtar, Amrulei Lekuchais, the Lekuchas said, go tell the Seifrim in Rava, Zil Emelei the Rava. I don't understand. Megillus Esther, you charge me with Zuz. To write a whole Megillah, you're charging me with Zuz. Shtar de Mar, simple Steigen also charge me with Zuz. That's not fair. Zuz basically saying, go negotiate with Rava. Show that you've been, and he fell for it. He was a young kid, and he was Haltzacham, a smart businessman. And also an Amalei, he starts negotiating with him. How it's not fair. He says, he chapped the takis, but that's a smart guy. Amalei retracted what he said. Zvini. Amalei Kroiv, the Kroiv said, what do you mean? We got duped. Lekuchas like Muru. They just told him what to say. He says, Amalei, no. Mizrele Savar. He bets him right. He knows how to negotiate. That I saw. Keeping the Mizrele Savar made the other. You're going to tell me he threw the dates? I David Hachi. You know why he threw the dates? He's a chutzpaniak. Chutzpah Yisrael has nothing to do with business, and chutzpah have nothing to do with each other in this area. Chutzpah Yisrael the have a bay, and therefore taka we see from the Maisa, even though it was under 20, it was taka good mechira. Rav Huna bereid Shul. What is regarding the edus? Vele edus edusa edus. It's considered a good edus. Amar Zutra loya maran elametaltul. Again, regarding metaltul, and you can already sell earlier. And we're going to see why Adi Rabbi, we're going to say, Punk we want you to sell. Since the halacha is till you're 20 years old, you can't sell karka, therefore you can't give a edus. You're going to tell me talton like code, this zvini. You're going to tell me a young kid, we know a pu'utais, you have a haminit to say that a 7-year-old could give edus? That's no chance. Amalei, you're wrong. The reason why a 7-year-old can give edus is for the Torah says you have to be an ish. Here we're handling someone who's a gadol. He's batzim over 13. So in such a case, it depends. If it's mekarka, he cannot. If it's metatal, he could. Amalei hasam inava amdu shnei hanoshim. Since the pasuk says you have to be ish, veleka, he doesn't have it. Zok Gemara one kufnon heyam and beis the bottom of Amad Amar Neymar. However, this is all talking about regarding the Yisayimim to sell. Sell karka you can do. A Neymar wants to say, however, matanasay matana. He could give a matana. I don't understand. When you're selling the Makabal Zuz, you're getting money, at least something back. You're telling me I'm at the delay. Dilmod, you're worried. That the businessman are going to take advantage and eat up the yasim. So Kol Shekei Matana delay, he's not getting anything. How do you understand the name that says it should be a good matana? Amalei, one kufn involvement aleph the tamech zavin shavi chamshe. Someone who sells, he made a lot of money off the deal. And Taisa says about it doesn't mean 5 or 6. You have an issue with Taisa says b'chlal. You have an issue with Tomekach. No, he gives a multiple terutzim. He either says la dafka, or he says tuk makarka, or he says beferish, or it's taka. It's not beto mekach. Ein shom. Taisa gives multiple reasons of shavi chamshe. But the point is, Achanami, you're going to tell me this zvini? We know it doesn't work even when he makes money. So what's the shot? Ella kimlu Rabbanon. Rabbanon understand the Yenuka Mekarve Daiti Gabizuzi. A kid loves money, he gets blinded very quickly. And if you're going to tell me you can do a good sale, the Amazini, you know what's going to happen? Zimnin, the Mekakashi Zuzi comes, businessman, they start showing the goods, they start showing the greens in front of this Yosef, and he gets all excited, and then they're going to take advantage and rip him off when it comes to negotiations. So Azul Mazmil Lakula Nichsedavu is going to end up selling the Chas and the father. Avol Gabi Matana, Ilab the Havilei Anomi Nev. I'm not going to have a no. Why in the world am I giving you a Matana? So therefore, what? Amr Rabbanan to have matana as a matana. And more than that, we want it to be a matana. You know why? We want it to be a matana as delav lemili. A person knows he can get back a matana. It's much easier to help Yisayim. However, if we knew that the halacha is Yisayim cannot give us anything, then it's much harder to help Yisayim adarabba. Regarding matana, we say kawar. Amr Rav Nachman, Amr Shmuel, Baitkin, which means we check, even though the person's 13 years old, or the Isha is 12 years old, we're not going to be Simon and Chazaka. We have the Shaila and Hilchos Kriyas HaTorah a lot, Parshas Parah, Parshas Zachar regarding Bar Mitzvah Bachar, if you rely on the Chazaka. Typical Parsha, we rely on the Chazaka. However, when it comes to the Daraises, we know we're not Simon. So Zakt, Rav Nachman and Name Shmuel, also regarding other halachas, we're going to check, double check, to make sure that there's two sires. Thing is, Baitkin, number one is the Kedushin. We're going to check to make sure before she gets married that she's Taka 12. Vilagay Rushin, the Gemara is going to ask if you got married, how do you get a divorce? It's Pasha. Lagay Rushin, the Gemara is going to say Yibum. Vilachalitza, regarding a Isha or a Ish, they want to do Chalitza, you have to make sure that there's Cyrus going on. Vili Meunin, if she's already old enough, she can't do mean. It's only till she's a Gadol. So we double check. If we see Shtei Cyrus, we say you can't do mean. Vilimko, Benichse Aviv, Achia Ben Esrim. 20 years old, not 18, we're going to see. Vikivon, fracting more right away. Vikivon about the kind of Kedushin, Gerushin Lamali. Why didn't I need Gerushin? I got the Kedushin. Mar answers, you're right, but there's a case where you didn't get married, but you need a divorce. Elul Yibum the Tanan. By Yibum, Ben Teisha Shana Biyamecha, Shabal Yivimtai, Kana. Already, because there's Zika, there's no real kinning going on, the tire is maknet, Ein Shom Biyavam is Barichas. However, very nice and get, Achi Gadol. But you need to be a Gadol regarding the get. So now the Gemara is going to go show us how Rav Nachman and Shmuel saying that all Zalach is Lafuki what we learned. First is L'chalitza, when he says that we're biting L'chalitza, who's going Lafuki? Lafuki and Rav Yaisi. Rav Yaisi wants to say Dafka Dama Ish Kasav Parsha. Regarding the pasuk Chalitza, it Dafka mentions the Ish. Therefore, you would think maybe not the Isha. Aval Isha, Ben Gdala Ben Tana, Kamash Malon, no, that we make a Hekish. The Makshina Isha Ish. They like Rav Yaisi. That's why Chalitza. What about Limiunin? Lafukim Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda gives extra time. He says that even the Amar Achi Arba Shachar has to be mamish black, that the skin even looks black against it, which is a later time of Shtei Cyrus. Kamash Malak of Yehuda, even any Shtei Cyrus is considered you cannot do mian. Why Achi ben Esim is Lafukahu? Lafukaman the Amar Shmanasrei. Again, Lafuka, the earlier Shitas that we saw, 18 years old. The Hilchasa Teichzmans, Kalifnizman, the Loch is like Rav on the name of Nachman. The Hilchasa Kigidav Aminasha, that if a kid's very smart, he knows how to run a business, he can already sell, even though he's not 20 or 18 years old. The Hilchasa is Kemar Zutra, the regarding Eidos, you can only do metaltalin of Karkanat. The Hilchasa Kameimar, the what? The Matana is considered Matanasa Matana. The Hilchasa Rav Nachman, Amashmul, Bekulu, and all these halachas, whether it's Kedushin, Gerushin, Chalitz, in all these cases, we're not Saimech, and you gotta wait that to make sure there's two sires, and the Rashbam is Maisif, that this is dafka, the nechasim of the fathers, because it's easy to get rid of. But nechasim, you got a matana you bought, then again, we already learned you can sell it under 20 years old, like regular metal. Zok the Gemara Vaita, we're going to see a new shita that we never really knew of regarding matna shchimera. Zok the Mishnah on the Bana Kufna Vav. Ha-mechalek nechasav al piv. Someone who's getting away all his nechasim is a regular shchimera. Rabbi Laza Aimer, echad bari. Whether he's a healthy person, the echad, mesukah, doesn't make a difference, it depends. If it's nechasim sheyesh lehem achrayis, niknin b'kesem shtav chazaka. However, she'en lehem achrayis, ein niknin elu b'mishicha. On that, amulai wan kufnun vavam beis, amulai ma'isa be'iman shel bnei Reichel. Bnei Reichel is the father's name, Dr. Shvam. Sha'isa chayla. He was dying. We saw this ma'isa earlier. We learned this last week. Kufnun alf. Va'amr tnu kivinasi, which is like a brooch. It's a certain type of jewelry, a pendant. Says, give it to my daughter Labiti. V'hi b'shnei masar mana was worth 12 mana. Umeisa v'kimus t'varel. Now, in such a case, we're trying to bring a raya. The Rashbam says manashach either it was a matnish chimera beloy shir. So then we could say maybe Rabbi Elazar's might have been tzava machmas misa. However, or he wants to say even a scenario where it was a complete ma'isa, there was nothing left. The first case was beloy shir. Therefore, it's going to work. And maybe regarding mitzvah machmas misa, matnish chimera or not. Or he wants to say it was a b'mipsas. And you even see by mitzvah machmas misa that he argues. So in such a case, frektim again. This is the Mishnah asking, what's going on over there? You see it works. Even in such a case. And then he says, no, you can't bring a raya. I'm a lamb. Bnei Reichel. B'nei Rachel, we're going to see why. Tikber and Iman. They cursed him. He's cursing him out, and he's saying since the Rishonim halavai that the mother should bury them. And the Gemara is going to say why. It was a knas regarding what they did was wrong. There was a Maisa again. B'meruni is Hashem Akoyma Echad Shei B'Shalayim Ha'olam Etatel L'Arba. He's stuck in Yerushalayim, and there's Bamas Masber. The guy is dying. That's what we're thinking in the Havmina. It's very important. We're thinking that he's a shchimra and he's dying. He's trying to get rid of all his nechasim. You can't do anything. Like our Mishnah. This is Shitas Rebbe Lazar. That you need to do a kinyan. So he says, what should I do? So therefore he's saying you have to do a Maisa kinyan agaf. So Halach, he tells them, go buy them. Velakach Bais Sela. The Rishbam says that the cheap rocks that you can't really grow in your shalayim, which was much cheaper, he's only buying it to do a kinyan agaf. Go buy Velakach Bais Sela Echad Samach Yerushalayim. Man, he goes as follows. Tzoyin of the north Leploin even Imai with the kinyan agaf should be Mea Tzoyin Umea Chavias. 100 sheep and 100 barrels with the right man the south should go to Leploin even Mea Tzoyin Umea Chavias. Lamaiso Meis Vikim Chacham Miskvarim. So again, we're trying to bring a raya that Chachamim said it does work. So if anything, you have a clear raya, they need a kinyan. So it's a raya to Relazar. And the Gemara says, no. Avadi needed a kinyan. You know why? Meruni was a bari, haya, so it's pasha. You need a kinyan. He says, regarding the Bnei Rachel, Tikber and Iman. Frek tomorrow. My time of Kalaylu. Why is he cursing him out? What did they do so wrong? Rav Yehuda Mishmuel, that what happened was, Mekaimi, Kaitzim, Bekarem, Hayu. Which means, we all know regarding Kalayim, there's a lachid Kalayim, that let's say weeds, something that you don't maintain, you don't want, can become Kalayim. But something that is used, that turns into Kalayim. Now, what happened was, they would put Kaitzim. Now, Kaitzim, we're going to see in a moment, that most of the Velt, Kaitzim was worthless. However, the Ba'aravia is a place, the camels ate the Kaitzim, so the shaila is, do you go Basra, a small place or not? So Amr Vidim Mashmal Mekayim Kaitzim Bekarma, you in the vineyard will be Kalayim. Rabbi Lazar Tamei the Tanan. There's a shaila of Kaitzim and Mekayim Kaitzim Bekarm. Rabbi Lazar wants to say I'm a Kiddush. The halach is it's considered Kalayim. The Chachamim Amrim like Kiddush because no one wants Kaitzim. Eladavar Shekamayu Mekayim, only something that you want. So for tomorrow, I don't understand. What's going on? Why do you want Bechlal these kaitzim? Bishma karchim, it's a certain type of flower. It's like a purple flower that you did use. Bishma karchim, crocus or something chazi. Ela kaitzim, what's the point of thorns? Lamai chazi. I'm Rav Chanina, my time there, Beleza. You know why? Shekem ba'aravya mekayim in kaitzim isadas lekam and the camels taka eat thorns. So in such a case, that's the shayla zokter ishbam. V'Rabbanan goes basa ruba the alma. Ruba the Alma don't eat these thorns. Therefore, what? We don't say it's considered Kalayim. However, as it says, we go Basra even that Makoim, and therefore it's considered Kalayim. Amr Rav Levi, Kainin Kinyan Mishchimera Afilu B'Shabbos. Rav Levi wants to say that the halacha is you can even do a Kinyan. So do a Kinyan Chalipin on Shabbos. There's nothing to do with Elazar that holds regarding Kinyan. Rather, it's a new concept, which we all know is, again, the whole point of a matna shchimra that we learned, you don't need a kinyan, the Gemara's masber earlier, we're worried of pikuach nefesh. Eloshema titrei daita alav, even though we know Allah is in Shabbos Narbanan, he now do anything similar to a kinyan. However, when it comes to shchimra, where we're worried about him dying, in such a case, we say you could do whatever you have to do, even such a ma'asim with Rabbanan Tzasser. However, regarding the shchimra, we're worried about pikuach nefesh, memela, we are mat. Zok the heilige Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer Oimer, B'Shabbos, Dvarov Kayom. If a person we're talking about a matna shchimra, he's given away his nechasim. If it's on Shabbos, Dvar of Kayamim, even without a kinyan, you know why? Mipnei shein yachol lichtay. He cannot write anything. He can't do anything. So therefore, works that a kinyan avaloi bechol. Since on chol, that it's not a big deal to write a kinyan. V'lama titrev daita. You're not gonna. What's gonna happen already? Go make a kinyan. On Shabbos, we can understand you're worried. You might die. However, chol you could do it. Rabbi Shoimer, no. B'Shabbos, amru madach Shabbos. It works, even though he has no option of making a kinyan. Kavachayim b'chol, you have an option. And kayotzevay, very similar machlekes would be is zachin lakatan. Now, katan doesn't have a schos to be zeicher for himself. The shayla, can you be zeicher for it? So Rabbi Lezer wants to say zachin lakatan. However, vein zachin lagadol. Since the gadol could be zeicher for himself, you can't be go zeicher to mamish similar machlekes. There, Rabbi Lezer, Shoimer lakatan amru madach a katan who can't kavachayim lagadol which he could. So Zok the Gemara Masnisa Mani. Who is that Mishnah like? Gemara says it's Rabbi Yehudi. Then we have a Bais. We're going to see Shitas Reb Meir, and Reb Meir is going to be very similar. It's going to be opposite of our Mishnah, and we're going to see the chachma of what's the opposite of what the lumdus is, and then we're going to see Rav Yehuda, which is the exact quote of our Mishnah, and that's why our Mishnah is like Rav Yehuda. So let's see it inside the Tani. We have a brayser. Meir Aimer, Rabbi Lezer. His version is Rabbi Lezer Aimer bechol, not b'Shabbos. Our version is b'Shabbos. Bechol dvar kayamim neishi yachal lichtay avaloi b'Shabbos. So it's mamish punk fakert that Rameir's version holds. It's dafka bechol, b'Shabbos not. And Rabbi Shua, very important. It comes that the shitas Rameir is there's no nafkamina, practical nafkamina, and shitas Rabbi Shua. Shitas Rabbi Shua is going to be bein bechol, bein b'Shabbos. It works. The shaila is why. We're going to see that our Mishnah's understanding madach you could do it when you can do it. Kolshkin you could do it when you could do it. And we're going to see that Meir's version is Rabbi Shua is going to learn a little differently. Rabbi Shua Aimer on Kufnan Zayin Amral bechol amru madach during the chol they let the kavachaymer l'Shabbos. Kavachaymer Shabbos that you can do it. We made you a takana because we're worried about Tirav Das. Kayaytzabai zachin lakaton vein zach. Sorry, kayaytzabai zachin lagadol vein zachin lakaton divrei Rebbe Lezer mamish. So far, this is very similar of the Mishnah. That's zachin lakaton vein zachin lagadol divrei Lezer. Oh, it's the opposite. Sorry, kayaytzabai zachin lagadol vein zachin lakaton is mamish the opposite of our Mishnah. Divrei Rebbe Lezer. Rebbe Shuaimer begadol amru kavachayim lakaton. Again, it's a very similar chalikas. However, this is the point. Masnis Mani is Rav Yehuda, because now we're going to quote the entire Mishnah. Rav Yehuda Aimer, the Relez Aimer, Shabbos Dvar Kayamim, Nei Sheino Yachal Lichtay. Avaloi Bechol. And that Rav Shua Aimer, Mamash the Mishnah, Shabbos Amar Kavachayim Bechol, and Kayetzabai, Zachin Lakata, and Me Zachin Lagadol, Diver Relez, and Rav Shua Aimer. This is the end of our Mishnah, Lakata and Amru Kavachayim Lagadol. So again, very clearly, we're basically quoting our Mishnah on Diver Rav Yehuda, but it's not going in Shitas Reb Meir. Zok the Heilige Mishnah Kuf Nun Zayin Amud Beis. Nofal Habayis Olav Ve'al Oviv. So again, what happened was a house collapsed and a person on his father. A house collapsed on a person on his father. Now, what happened was Oy Olav Al Marisha. We're going to see three Mishnayos in this week. The first Mishnah is a house fell on a person and on his father, or a person on his Marisha. So what's going on is Yarsheav Aimrin, the father, the Rusha, the father want to say that the son died first. Since the son died first, Haben Meis Ve'achakach Meisa'av. Then the father died. About Chayv Aimrim, no. Ha'av Meis Rishon, Ve'achakach Meisa'ben. So what do you do in such a case? Again, if the son dies first, then the father is Mayershim, then it's Gavaldik, then the father's Yershim get it. However, if the father dies first, then the son gets it, and therefore if you're Baal Chayv with the son, you should be able to get Yenachasim. Or Ksubasisha Beisham, I mean, what do you do in such a case is Yachloiku. In such a case, we're going to do Yachloiku. Why do you do Yachloiku? Why don't we say it's in the Nechasim of a person who has it, just because you're a Baal Chayv, you don't have it? That Rashbam says, Kasavri Beishame Shtar Ha'asoi Ligvois Kegavoi Dami. That means to say is when a person holding on to a shtar that says you owe me $100, I'm somewhat of a muchzuk that I'm equal in such a case that we say I already have the money somewhat. So in such a case, we look at you as both as a muchzuk. Beis Hill is going to argue, he's not going to agree to this. He's going to say, ain't Savik Maitzim Midei Vadei, which is what we usually should say. And that, Beis Shammai wants to say, Shtar also liquids Kegavoi Dami, and therefore Yachloik Beis I mean, no, Nechaskim Chaskasim ain't Savik Maitzim Midei Vadei. Tanan Hassam, we have a Mishnah, we're going to learn this, we're going to see this. Mamish, the second to last daf of the Masechta. Hamavis Chaver B'Shtar, a person lends his friend with the shtar, even if there's no chrais, we hold a chrais is considered to sefer. The halacha is goyim nechasim shabbatim. However, if it's a milva peh, which means aidei edim, in such a case, what do we hold? Goyim nechasim nechayrin. We all know because it's not fair to the person. There's no kol. We hold whenever there's a shtar, even without a chrais to sefer, we hold there's a kol, and you should know better. Therefore, it can be goyim nechasim shabbatim. Nechasim bnei mishabatim. By Shmuel has a shayla as follows. The akni v'kanamau. What is the halach when the person says, and not only I'm being mishabed what I have already, I'm going to also be mishabed on what I'm going to buy. So I'll leave it there, Meir. First of all, there's no shayla because he holds the Amar Adam Aknav Shabalaylam Laiti Bailach. It's a kol shkein Rashbam's masber. Madach Perios Ledek, which not even in the Welt. It's a kol shkein. So shibud, which is already here, so kol shkein works. However, that's not a shayla Laiti Bailach Nevadikano. Elakiti Bailach. I'll leave it there abon the whole bats and Amir Adam Aknav Shabalaylam. Here we have it sad. And the Rashbam's masber two mahalchim. Either because shibud is maybe starker, it's considered ba'elam, or the Rashbam wants to say it's a kula that we give to halva, in order that people should not lock the doors. We want people to lend money. So even in a scenario of the akni, it might work. Let's bring a raya. Again, the context over there, this is a Gemara in Ksubas, where a person, what happened was, pulls out a shtar chayv on his friend. And the guy says, you owe me money. And he says, how could it be that you tell me I owe you money, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, in middle of Tesvav Nisan, right before Pesach, I have a shtar that you bought for me, my sada. How could it be that you would pay me money and take away my sada if I owe you money? In such a case, there's no shaila. That's what Adman wants to say. Why in the world did you pay me money? Elamai, I never owed you money. That was Adman's mahalach. Adman says he has such a title. However, the Chachamim say no. He was smart. He was smart for selling them the karka because he could use it as a mashkan. So again, what are we trying to bring a raya? We're trying to bring a bomb raya. Then in such a case, we see that the akni works. How else could akni work? On that we say no. Amalei Rav, Minei Kamas. You're trying to bring a kasha from there. Minei in the sneer of Bachayv, Afilu Meklim Al Da Kaspe. Even from the clothing on his back, I could pull off. So there's nothing to do. Here, our shaila of the ikni is regarding the kuchais, regarding other people that are going to lose out. So Kikam Availon, the ikni kana macha, the ikni kana of Irish mind. Such a shaila where other people are losing. That's our shaila. So Amir Chana Toshma. Let's try to bring another raya. Our Mishnah says, Nafal Bais Olav, Valov, Olav Amirishav, Isalav, Ksubas Isha, Mamish, this case. Ubachayv, and Yarshav, Aimim Haben Misrishan. The father's trying to say, the Yarshav trying to say the son died first, and then the father died. Achach Mesav. Ubalachayv is what are they saying? Aimim Have Misrishan. Frankly, Mara, Manashach. The Isa Kedachli telling us it doesn't work in a case where you Mashab the future, the Ikni Kana Macha, the Ikni Kana Mirish, Loy Mishtab, it doesn't work. Very nice, the father died first. Nehi Namidav my inspiration. Very nice. It's a case of the iknu, because it's only in the future, because the son is Yerush the father only later. And you're telling me what? The son's about chayv. So what? He's Yerush the father, and that's why he got the nechasim. That's mamish a case of shibud only happening at a later time. Elamai, we have a bomb raya that shibud works for a later time. I would agree to you. However, I could say is no, be'etzem, iknu doesn't work. What's our case of a Mishnah? It's a mitzvah, li'yisaymim, li'fraya, chayves, aviyim. There's nothing to do with ikni. Vadu, you can say maybe ikni doesn't work, and he didn't even write it. However, since we have a mitzvah of yisaymim, li'fraya, chayves, aviyim. Maskif law. And then he asks, you tell me, oh, is that the reason? Maskif ashi, that's a milval peh. We all know, v'rav shmuel damar tavayu, milval peh, ain't a goy v'lamini yoshem v'lamini l'kuchais. So what are you telling me? How could he tell me that it's only because of mitzvah yisaymim? Then it only becomes a kuchas. And then the more answers. One kufnan zaynam beis elohamani Rav Meir. We're back to Rav Meir. The Adam Adam makne davar shaloi b'loilam. And then we never really had a shayla. That us is davar pashut. Our shayla is dafka l'fi chacham. Omer Rav Yaakov and Aprakoi Mishmei Ravina Toshmala. Try to bring another raya. You have shtarei chayv. Ha-mukdamim psulim va-mucharim ksher. Mukdamim is, we all know, that you wrote it, you predated. In such a case, it's possible, because we're nervous you're going to end up taking from the kuchais shalai kadin. However, mucharin, we want to say it's kosher. Now, frak the Mara, how could mucharin ksherin? We understand the mucharin is ksherin, based, the only person who's going to lose is the person who wrote the shtar. From frak the Mara, is lai mushtabed, mucharin amai ksherin, it's a mamish, a case of mucharin is a case of the ikniu, it's only a case of the future. Amani, again, we're back to square one. We're going to have to say it's Rameir, the Adam, Amar, Adam, Makne, Davar Shaloi, Balayla. We'll try again. Amar, Amshashim, Mashir, the Rav Tashma. We know by Shvach, Kakois, Ketza. In such a case where it's a Shvach, the person went and he improved and he has to give it back. And it comes to Bachayv and takes away. And the Allah is Kishu Goive, Sakere, Menuchas, Meshubadim, it's a Shvach. And again, this is the Rav. Does not work. The question is about chayv. How can you take the shvach? Shvach is only a shiva that's happening later. Again, we answer Hamani, it's Rameir, Damar, Adam, Davar, Makan, Shaloi, Balai. So we tried our luck with 3 different kashas, 3 different rayas. We all came out that it cheat us Rameir. Zok the Gemara. Intim Salaymer, Deikni Kana Machar, Deikni Kana Irish, Loy Mishtabit. Oh, Loy Mishtabit. I don't have any questions. Period. Nothing to discuss. However, I have a shayla as follows. If I do hold it's mishtabit, imtim tzalai mishtabit, what is the halacha of lava v'lava v'chaza v'kana mao? Means to say is, you borrow from Reuven Sunday morning, and you write the iknu, and everything's good. Now, you borrow, and the chayv is only due Rosh Chodesh Nisan. You borrow the following week from Shimon, and you write the exact same tanoim, and the chayv is only due Nisan. When do they default? They default Rosh Chodesh Nisan, when you can't pay any of them back. So in such a case, what do we do? Lava v'lava v'chazav v'kanamah. Do we say lekama mishtabit or lebasra mishtabit? Dafka is it the first person that's going to be mishtabit, or maybe lebasra mishtabit? The Rashbam is masbet. The studim we're going to say is the reason why we want to say that dafka the kama is mishtabit because it clearly says ishtara mukta. However, the shiloh to say the basra mishtabit is why in the world did you make another time given over the following week to Shimon the exact same tanoim? Elamai, when you gave it to Shimon the following tanoim, what you're trying to do is you were trying to knock out the first person and trying to get rid of the shiba that you did. So what is the halacha? Amr Rav Nachman Hamilsi Bayalon Mitaka the Shiloh B'Sholchim Mitan. They said the Rishon is kana. The first person kind he has first dips. He has a tvis on that. Rav Huna Amar Rav Huna wants to say Yachleiku. V'chein Tani Rabba Rav Huna also the halacha of Yachleiku. Since we don't know, we're not sure who do we go like. Amr Ravina Madura Kama der Ravashi Amalan Rishon kana Madura Basra der Ravashi Amalan Yachleiku. And the Rashbam is Masber. What's it mean, Madura Kama or Madura Basra? Is that every 30 years he was Messiah Talmud. I guess he learned a quarter of a daf a day. I don't know what he did. It took 30 years. But every 30 years he finished. For the first time, Madura Kama, he held a Rishon Kana. However, by the second time around, he held that it's Yachlaiku. V'hilcha says Yachlaiku. So Frekta Gemara, Meisa with the Shvacher Kois Kate. So we said Aresha Machar Sad El Chaveira Vishmicha. Ubaba Chavet Harfa Kushu Gaiva Gaiva Zakam Nechasim Shabadim. Vesa Shvach Nechasim Nechayrin. Then Isa, if you're going to tell me it's Yachlaiku Chetzi Shvach Mibayle. Why is it Chetzi Shvach? There's Bamas Mans because the second person is a case of the Ikni. We're saying it's Yachlaiku. So why in the world me as the second person who's Mashbiachit should only have to give him no Yachlaiku? My answer is Hinechanami. My Gaiva Nami Diktani is only Chetzi Shvach. Okay, the last daf Kufnun Ches. We're at with the second last Mishnah. Nafal habayis Allah val ishtoi. Now there's Bais Medrash Ohr. He doesn't have any kids. Yarsha Baal Oimrim from her. Dafka Yarsha Baal Oimrim. The Yarsha the Baal want to say that what Isha makes Rishon. Now it's very crucial to understand that Ein Habal Yarish is Ishtoi Bakever. That's where it's getting sticky. That's where the whole machlekes comes in. Now, Nafal Abayis Olav Elishta Yarsha Balaim and the what Isha Mesa Rishon. The wife died first, and therefore what the Baal's not Yarshan. V'achach Mesa Baal. However, Yarsha Isha, I mean no, the Baal died first. Mesa Rishon, v'achach Mesa Isha, and therefore the what? They are Yarshan. So what do we do in such a case? Beshama Oimrim Yachlaiku. So let's add a little context to understand the full Mishnah. Now, there's three things that Isha brings in. We know the Isha had, there's three things that Isha would have. Is the ksuba, whatever you make up, 200 if you might say, whatever you do. Then there's a concept, something called nichse melug and nichse tzayim barzel. What's the difference between nichse melug? We all know nichse melug is that the husband has a schos in the peiros. However, it's her thing, she gets it back. Sometimes, for example, you bring in a Scheiner car into the marriage, by the time they end up getting divorced and died later, the car's worthless come out. Because he had all the payers. That's one option. That's called nichse melug. Nichse tzayim barzel is, the second you come into the marriage, you evaluate. You assess it. You say, this is worth $500,000. I owe you now $500,000. It's called tzayim barzel because that value never gets lost. And then, if he dies, or they get divorced, he has to give the assessment that they valued earlier. So this is the shiloh. This is really the whole machlekes of the year. What are we handling? We're handling the ksuba, we're handling the nichse melug, or we're handling the tzayim barzel. So Beishamai says, let's start the Mishnah again. In the scenario where you have it in a machlekes who died. So the Yarsha Baal, each one wants to say, everyone has their own agenda. Did the Baal die first? Or the Isha died first? And if the Baal died first, and a Baal Yarsha Ishta Bekever. So Beishamai says in such a case, we do Yachlaiku. Now, even in Yachlaiku is a Shaila, what is Beishamai talking about Yachlaiku? Is it all three? Like we said, Ksuba, Nichse Tzayim Barzel, and Nichse Melug. So some Taki Nechanam say, Yeshayim say is the what Yachlaiku is and everything. However, one want to say, Dafka on the Nichse Melug is the Yachlaiku, because she has it. She's holding on to it. But the Tzayim Barzel, he's holding on to it. Maybe in such a case, and the ksuba also, which he's holding on to, we're not going to say achlaiku. However, beisila, which we're going to see, beisila imrem becheskasim. The ksuba is becheskas Yarsha Baal because he owes her the money, but he's holding on to it. However, the nichse melug, that's what it means. Nechnasim and nechnasim v'yatzima. That's becheskas Yarsha Baal. The Rashbam clearly says it's the nichse melug. We are in the Gemara of Kufnut Chesam and Beis. Right away, Beis Hillel says Nechasim is Bechaskasim. Who's the Nechasim har? I hear it start to say the Nichse Melug could be in his Nechasim, because the Maisi has the Shchus of the Paris. Or I could say, maybe it's her nechasim, because she's the one who owns it. So becheskas me. So Rabbi Yochanan wants to say, becheskas yarshe habal. And there's Bamas Masber, because the whole point is he could sell it. So there's Rabbi Yehuda Spitz to sell it, if he can't count it like next to it. Look, Rabbi Lazar becheskas yarshe ha'isha, because Lamaisa, she's the one who brought it from her father's house. Rav Shimon Shlakish Kafra Amar, you're right, I don't know what to do. Therefore, since they both want to do it, they both have tainas, I'm going to say achleiku. In such a case, I'm going to taina yachleiku. Our final mission of Bais Medrash. We have a case where a person dies and his mother dies. Suddenly over here, Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, the head of Achlekes, if you say Achlekes or not, there they agree. Amar Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva wants to make him Achlekes. Shanachasim becheskasim. We're going to see what's that mean. Who again? We have the same shayla becheskas me. Amar ben Azai. Al chalukin on a mitzvah. We just had two mishnayos. We saw Achlekes Beis Shammai Hillel. You want to take the third mishnah and also make him Achlekes? El Shabbat lechalak aleinu sashavin. We just found. They finally found an agreement. Then in the case of the mother and the son, there Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel agree achleiku. So again, right away the Gemara questions. Becheskas mi. We're back to square one. Zakter bekiva maydani bezu shenechasim becheskasim. So Rabbi Loi Aimer becheskas yarshahe. The people that have in the Maisa are the yarshe of the mother. They're holding on to chazaka. They are no becheskas yarshe ha-ben. Now, when Zera went to Tzal, come Shittasir Beloy. That what? He changed his mind from saying from Yarsha Ben, now goes to the mother. They take it out, come Rabbi Shittasir Zera. They take it out, Rab Zera. Shmamino, Rab Zera was talking to himself. Why did I change my mind? I started off saying, Be Yarsha Ben. Rabbi Loi is the one who says, no, I agree to Rabbi Loi that it's Becheskes Yarshaim. Shmami no, Avir Dertzal Machkem. So Taku Upshot, Frek the Mara, why did he change his mind to say it goes to the mother? I can see also the Tzad of Ben. Since Lamaisa, what are we understanding right now? This Nachal is in who? If the mother shaved it, it's going to stay in her shaved. If it goes to the Ben, we're going to have to take it away from the shaved's mother. Therefore, we want to stay where the shaved is. That's why when Rabbi Zera went to Eretz Yisrael, he said Eretz Yisrael Machkem, and therefore I'm going to hold like Rabbi Loi that it's going to be Becheskas Yarshe Ha'en.